Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Breeze, Breezeway Productions The Breeze, where we bring you the latest in independent films and film festival news. And we continue our coverage of this year's South by Southwest Film Festival, the 2025 edition. And we are here today with director Elaine Epstein to talk about her documentary film screening at the festival, Arrest the Midwife. How are we doing, Elaine?
I'm doing well, and you? Thank you.
Of course, doing good. I was able to check out the film before we're having this conversation today. So my first question to kick things off is tell our audiences about Arrest the Midwife.
So for me, Arrest the Midwife is really about a group of badass Mennonite women who stand up when their midwives are arrested, stand up for reproductive rights. And yeah, and it was just amazing to watch them step into that role.
I think that the subject matter is super interesting because I knew nothing about this topic before watching the documentary. How did you end up finding out about this community, this issue, and all of the subjects that are in the film?
So I really came to the story through my own personal experience with having children. When my wife and I decided to have kids, we kind of followed the traditional medical model to get pregnant. We were kind of clueless, and nothing about the process felt right until a friend recommended we chat with the midwife. And when once we had that conversation, it was just such a game changer for us. She was, it was a personal experience. She took the time to listen to us, understand what we wanted and needed. And yeah, and she saw us through the birth of our first child.
Mhm.
Um, and then when we were thinking about having a second child, we went back to the same midwifery practice, which was connected to a New York hospital.
Mhm.
Went back very early because it had a long waiting list. There's only so many, women that they can accommodate, birthing women that they can accommodate. So
Mhm.
we're like, we'll go back early. We want to make sure we had such a good experience. We want that same experience again.
Mhm.
And to my surprise, it had closed down. And I was like, well, why? What are the reasons?
Mhm.
And so that kind of started me on this journey, just questioning what's happening with midwifery in this country, what's happening with birth in this country. And it was really then that I learned about the pressure of the medical industry against midwifery. It's the healthcare, I would say the healthcare industry. It's the insurance companies, healthcare industry. And that kind of sparked my interest. And I started researching and I stumbled across the story of Liz's arrest. So I stumbled across the story of a midwife in upstate New York that was arrested. And I was like, why? This doesn't make sense. And
I
so I
found-
contacted her and I thought the story would go. I was like, why would they arrest a midwife? The story's going to go away. They're never going to proceed with this case. It's crazy. It's going to get chucked out. So I was like, we chatted and I was like, let's see what happens. The grand jury is convening. It's going to go away. That's going to be the end of it. And just before Christmas, she called me and said they've indicted me on 95 felony charges.
That's crazy. I mean,
It's
that is, there's so many charges and that it didn't go away, and that you also showcase a couple of other midwives that were, investigated and then tried for different accounts of just them doing their activities, and that it went into not taking plea deals and then going to court and fighting against it. And you laid out a very interesting timeline over like the story of midwifery, and it's sad to see how things have changed because of the medical industrial complex just making it actually illegal for you to just have like a home birth, or work with people that aren't certified. So when you were doing your research on this, when did you notice that things were changing within the system and that it was getting harder for people to follow that profession without certification and things like that?
well, it's interesting. So in New York, I mean, certified professional midwives in this country, thankfully, are gaining a bit of traction, and they are recognized in a number of states. New York is not one of them. But I think there's a bigger issue, which is that midwives, even midwives practicing in hospitals are unable to practice in a way that they feel comfortable with. That we have medicalized birth to such an extent, there's such a profit motive now to to the birthing process that natural childbirth, the way it should happen, just doesn't happen anymore in the hospital setting.
Hmm.
And it's not profitable to have a woman just laboring in a hospital bed if you're not using all the tricks and tools and things that you can charge for. So, we have this cascade. This cascade is like, oh, well, your labor is not progressing fast enough. Let's give you some Pitocin. Oh, well, now your contractions are so much more painful. We'll give you an epidural. Oh, now we've given you an epidural. Now your labor is stalling a little bit. Yeah, we have to C-section you. And so now yeah, it's just like, well, great. It's the cost
Well,
of childbirth is through the roof.
yeah. Anybody that's been hit with medical charges of going into the hospital sees the astronomical bill afterwards, and insurance or not, they'll find a way to charge you for everything. And you hear stories about people that are facing mounting debt because of the medical problems that they've experienced. And it's interesting that in New York they're going after the midwives because a lot of the politicians state that this is a state that will defend your rights and freedoms. It's pro-choice. You'll be able to have the right to practice and do what you want. But then again, you find these subjects that end up becoming charged with these crimes. So how do they find out about these things happening and then take them up on charges?
Well, in this case, the inciting incident was the death of a baby. Um, and the midwife did what the midwife was supposed to do. Labor wasn't progressing. It was a home birth, labor wasn't progressing. And she made the call, okay, this is not a situation that should carry on in the home. We are now going to transfer care, which is how it should be. There should be this continuum of care. So she transferred into the hospital. Um, the woman continued to labor. The baby was delivered in the hospital. And later, when the baby died later, it was like, let's blame the midwife.
Yeah, it's very hard to see how it progresses. And in your documentary, Arrest the Midwife, you showcase the progress of how each of these cases unfolds, the communities that rely on these midwives, like the Mennonite community, the Amish community, that would travel hours to just go and see someone to take care of their children. It's very powerful and very interesting, and a subject I did not know about. But what I love about documentaries is it brings attention to these matters, so you can see that there's a whole contingent of matters that need to be brought to the front and center, so people are aware that it's happening. So this film will be playing at South by Southwest this year. Do you know when and where your film will be screening?
Yes, so the film will be screening on Sunday at 2:15, March 9th at 2:15 at Alamo Lamar.
Nice. So go check it out at the Alamo, Alamo Lamar. And thank you so much again for spending the time with me today to talk about the film. Director Elaine Epstein talking about Arrest the Midwife, playing at South by Southwest this year in Austin, Texas. Thanks again for coming on The Breeze.
Great. Thank you for having me.